Hello guys, welcome to another Blocking Dead video. Today I'm trying a bit of a different formatting where I record the gameplay and the audio at different times so I can concentrate on both of them fully. So I had a pretty special AP chemistry class. For one, we set a lot of things on fire because the teacher loved to set things on fire. That's right, me, the pyromaniac, was blessed with the teacher that loves to set things on fire. So she was like my fire mentor. Today I'm going to talk about how my AP chemistry class almost set off the fire alarm. Multiple times. We were practicing demos for tiny children, and the first demo I'm going to talk about is lighting the board on fire. So that meant getting a flammable liquid, and you write with that flammable liquid on the board with like a paper towel, and then your lab partner lights it on fire. So you have to trust that person not to light your hand on fire. But someone's hand almost got lit on fire. But my science teacher said, "Don't worry, it'll only hurt a lot for one day." My science teacher had actually lit her hand on fire. She knew from experience. The wax fire. Basically, you put wax in a test tube and then you put it on a Bunsen burner and you wait until it boils. And then when you plunge into the ice bath, it releases all the energy that it got from boiling out into fire. And that's pretty fun because the test tube also breaks. So, in addition to getting a fireball, you also get the sound of glass shattering, which scares the majority of people who we show this demo to, because they're not expecting such an explosive reaction when you just put some hot wax into some ice. They think, oh yeah, they're just gonna dunk some wax in some ice or whatever, and it'll do nothing. Nah, fireball. In fact, some of the teachers we showed this to fully stepped back and the kids screamed. And mind you, these are like tiny children, I don't know, second or third graders or whatever. So screaming was pretty normal, but they screamed especially loud for that one. One time, some of the wax even fell onto the floor and lit on fire. That was a fun time. Flame tests. We all know what a flame test is. You dip a stick into some solution, and then you light it on fire over a Bunsen burner or something like that, and it's a pretty color. Well, one time, I decided, what if there were more sticks? What if I grabbed a whole handful of them and lit it on fire? So I grabbed a handful of sticks and I put them over a Bunsen burner, and so effectively now I'm holding this ball of flame, and my science teacher just looks back, shrugs her shoulders, and then continues what she's doing, which is helping another group practice their demo, the fire bubbles. Now it was fun and colorful, like I was holding the whole rainbow in my hands, alright? I had the whole rainbow because I had picked out sticks from a bunch of different solutions, but once all the liquid burned off, that's when the fun part happened. All these little wooden coffee stirrers caught on fire at the same time, so basically I was just holding a torch in my hand. Don't worry, I put it into a water bath pretty soon, but for a second I was just holding a ball of fire. When we showed this to the little kids, we did it one stick at a time, like, you know, normal people, so that there was only one color at a time. And for some reason, they all wanted green. I don't know why. The fire bubbles. Now, with the fire bubbles, you're basically using one of the gas jets, and you have like a little funnel on the end of a tube, and you're dipping that into a bubble solution, and then you light it on fire as it goes up with like a stick. But if you don't light it at the right time, like you light it right as the bubble is popping, then the fire is way larger and is far more alarming than just a bubble-shaped fire, because then the fire comes way closer to you. We did that once. It was very scary. Either way, you singe the ceiling though, which, you know, is pretty fun. There's this demo called Gummy Bear Sacrifice, at least that's what some guy on the internet called it. Basically, you have a strong oxidizer, and then you wait for that to boil, and then you throw a gummy bear into that. And since the gummy bear is organic material, then all of its bonds are broken and the energy is released. So when you put the gummy bear in, one of its components is oxygen, and that creates, you know, a decent stream of fire. and the color can change depending on which strong oxidizer you use. The ethanol bottle. That's a fun demo. You have to use teamwork. So one person takes the plug off the bottle while the other person drops in a match and fire comes shooting out of it. But you can hear it make this whooshing noise several times because the oxygen actually is rushing back into the bottle and reigniting the fire. You know, I should also talk about the time that we almost lit the whole school on fire, because that was a pretty fun one. We were doing this demo, I forget what it's called, but I'm gonna call it a butane pour. And basically we have some butane in a can, like the type that you use to fill up like those culinary torches. What's supposed to happen is you spray some liquid butane into a bowl, which immediately turns into gas, and then you can pour it from one bowl to another. And the philosophy behind this demo is that butane is heavier than air, so it can be poured. But one of us accidentally put way too much butane in the bowl. So when it got poured, there was way more than there had to be, which turned into gas and poured out all over the table. So when it was lit, fire spilled all over the table, almost lighting 2 people on fire, one of which was wearing a puffer jacket. That was pretty scary for her. The presentations themselves went as well as they could. So there were 4 classes of tiny children, and so we split our AP chemistry class up into 4 groups of 2. But after each successive presentation, the classes became progressively less and less well behaved, to the point where my very, very patient chemistry teacher addressed them as the problem class. This was when she was talking to us, not to them. That would have been kind of awkward. At one point, I went on a rant about not touching the gas jets at the front of the desks, and I was thinking about telling them that the gas was poisonous or something, but I decided to shelve that strategy for another day. For one of the presentations, the teacher, of the little kids, actually trapped the more mobile kids between other kids so that they wouldn't be walking around the room while we were shooting fireballs into the air. We were having big brain plays. Also, by the end of each presentation, the room was visibly smoky, so we were running around frantically trying to open up windows. The funny thing about this teacher is that singeing ceilings was a pretty normal occurrence for her. In fact, the maintenance staff have to repaint parts of the ceiling each year. I was actually talking to one of the people who's in charge of the fire alarms in our building, and they said that we were actually pretty close to setting the smoke detectors off, since the smoke was visible. During this conversation, we were also talking about doing fiery demos during COVID and how one of the few places they could do science classes was in the cafeteria since we had social distancing. But the problem with the cafeteria was that there were lots of smoke detectors there, so doing fire demos there was a no-go. In the labs there were no smoke detectors, but there were still some in the hallway. So when we opened up the door, we were letting all of our smoke out into the hallway, which meant the smoke detectors could detect our smoke. And that's how we almost set off the fire alarms. Now, setting off the fire alarm wouldn't have just affected the high school, but also the upper middle school, and the lower middle school, and the majority of administrators, and the surrounding neighborhood's residents' ability to use the actual sidewalk. But my chemistry teacher still decided to do smoky demos because our school is supposed to be artsy and unique, so even administrators would find it funny. Don't get me wrong, if someone just pulled the fire alarm, the administrators would be pissed. But if it was set off by a class activity, then no problem there. Listen, if we set off the fire alarm, the fire department would have been there, and it would be a gong show. But it would be really funny, at least to us students. When practicing our demos, we were actually joking about setting the fire alarm off, and then my teacher says, "I'm sure the people at the fire department are lovely people, but I don't want to see them." And then she proceeds to tell us about the time that someone spilled mercury. In another video, video, I'm thinking about talking about some of the lovely things that happened at my school, like spilled mercury that I just mentioned, or the time that my friend almost started a fire. If you want to hear some of those stories, let me know in the comments section below. If you want to check out my other 2 videos, I'll put them right up here on the end screen. Thank you so much if you made it to the end of this video. Please leave a like if you enjoyed. Until next time, bye!